What is up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today I want to talk about saving money. So whenever it comes to saving money, there are really two schools of thoughts. The first one is that in order to save more money, you need to make more money. If you're somebody who isn't making a whole lot of money, or you are living paycheck to paycheck because of the fact that you don't make a whole lot of money, a great way to go about saving more money would be to simply just make more of it. Now, this is of course one of those things that is significantly easier said than done, and I've talked a lot on this channel about different methods and different strategies you can take in order to make more money. Of course, this method only works if you keep your cost of living relatively similar. So if you make more money and then you spend more money, that's going to defeat the purpose altogether. The way that this method works well is if you make more money and you keep your spending about the same. But the second school of thought when saving money, other than just simply making more of it, is saving money. And that's through cutting expenses and cutting frivolous purchases out of your spending habits altogether. Now, this is also something that is easier said than done, but it can be easier than a lot of people think, and it can be easier by cutting out some of the daily purchases that many of us have come accustomed to with technology, with convenience, and with our day-to-day lives. So in today's video, I want to talk about 5 things that I do not buy and how these things have helped me save money in the long run. So let's get started. Now, when it comes to saving, I don't have a Dave Ramsey approach to saving money. Dave Ramsey and a lot of people that follow his teachings think that you shouldn't go out to eat, you shouldn't treat yourself, you shouldn't enjoy yourself, you shouldn't buy anything that doesn't serve your budget and the greater good of saving until you are completely out of debt. And I disagree with this. I think that there is a fine line between, being responsible with your money and saving money and being completely reckless with your money. And it's okay to treat yourself to Starbucks. It's okay to go out to eat. It's okay to spend some money every once in a while, but the part that's important is to be just every once in a while and to really kind of toe that line of not being excessive with it, but still being able to enjoy your life. And that brings me to the first point I want to talk about in this video, which is coffee, and coffee being the #1 thing I don't buy. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Starbucks, and I like going to Starbucks every once in a while and getting fancy drinks, specifically in the fall whenever it comes to pumpkin spice lattes, but I think that this is something that people get into the habit of doing, and it can be incredibly harmful to your savings overall. At the end of the day, Starbucks costs almost the exact same as a fast food meal. I think that my drink at Starbucks, if I was to get it at Starbucks, is $6, and you could go to almost any fast food restaurant and get a meal for $6. And I think in the same way that you wouldn't go to McDonald's every single day for lunch, or at least you shouldn't go to McDonald's every single day for lunch, I feel like often there are people that don't think twice about going to Starbucks every single day for their morning coffee. This is something that is really easy to kind of overlook as just being your morning coffee, but you're not actually taking into account that that coffee is the same price as a meal, and you could make that exact same coffee for a fraction of the price at home. For me, I like black coffee. I don't drink a whole lot of cream, sugar. I very rarely drink anything other than black coffee. So at home, I can make that coffee for a few cents, whereas at Starbucks, that exact same black coffee is going to cost me between $2 and $3, sometimes even more. If I was to get a fancy drink like a pumpkin spice latte, those coffees cost $5 to $6, which is just crazy. If you are somebody who buys a Starbucks coffee every single morning before going to work and you spend about $5 per day, that ends up being $150 per month, which then equates to $1,800 per year purely on coffee. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that you need to cut out Starbucks altogether, and I certainly am somebody that will go to Starbucks every once in a while, but I think making it a habit of not buying your coffee out every single day and instead defaulting to homemade coffee the majority of the time is the best way to go when it comes to saving money. #2, and this is the one that kind of blows my mind more than any of the other points in this video, and that is food delivery services like Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, and so on. Now, this is something that I've never understood, and I think it may be because of the fact that I was raised in a household growing up where we never got food delivered. I honestly do not think ever once in my entire childhood my parents ordered food delivered to their house. It was always my dad went and picked it up and then we'd bring it home. And now going into adulthood, I have kind of fostered that exact same thing. I have never ordered food delivery services ever. And this is something that I really realistically don't think I will ever do. The problem is that food delivery services through services like Grubhub or Uber Eats, it's so much more expensive. I think that food delivery services are the biggest waste of money from a consumer's perspective. I am such a proponent for it for a side hustle. I think that taking part in this type of business as a driver is a great business model, but I will never understand how people can get their food like DoorDash and Uber Eats to them all the time. It's something that will never make financial sense to me, and I think that it is a huge money mistake that people are making. So if you want to save money, do not get your food delivered. You can still go eat out, just go and pick it up yourself. Number 3 is beer and alcoholic drinks while eating out. Now, this is something that I may be a bit biased at because I don't drink, so I don't even drink at home. I don't drink at all. But whenever I go out to eat, I will almost always get a Diet Coke. That's like my drink of choice, which is oftentimes between $2 and $3. Whereas on the flip side, if I'm going out to eat with somebody and they get an alcoholic beverage, even if they get a meal that's almost comparable to my meal that I got, they are oftentimes paying, 75%, if not 100% more than what I'm paying. And I've never quite understood the desire to, pay $6 for a beer at a restaurant whenever you could drink that exact same beer at home for $2. Again, this is something that I think people often get in the habit of doing, similar to coffee and getting food delivered. You get in the habit of having your food delivered to you. It's hard to then go out and get that same food because it's now seen as an inconvenience. You get used to having your coffee from Starbucks in the morning on your way to work. So now whenever you make it at home, it doesn't taste quite as good. I think it's the same thing with beer and alcoholic drinks whenever you're eating out, is that the idea of drinking a beer with a burger is much more appealing than drinking a water or a Coke with a burger. But the fact is that it is significantly more expensive to get an alcoholic drink than it is for a fountain drink, especially if you're somebody that's going to drink more than one. For me, if I go out to eat, I'll drink like 8 Diet Cokes and it's all $3. Whereas if I was to do that exact same thing with beer, you're spending $20, $30 easily on alcoholic beverages if you are with your significant other and you guys order multiple drinks. I just feel as though this is another one of those things that maybe every once in a while it's a good idea, but for the most part, I think getting into the habit of drinking alcoholic drinks whenever you're out to eat is a bad idea, and it's a real waste of money long term. For me, though, the fact that I don't drink alcoholic drinks hasn't been the end-all be-all reason as to why I've been able to save a lot of money. I do think that it is one of the many factors that have played a role. And for that, I think that ordering beer and alcoholic drinks is the third thing that you should not do if you want to save money. Now, the next purchase I want to talk about is one that is almost universally looked at as a bad idea by financial advisors and financial experts. In fact, a lot of these experts agree that this is one of the number one ways that you can hinder your ability to grow wealth and save money. And that is buying new cars. More specifically, buying new cars on a fairly consistent basis. But the fact is that whenever you buy a new car, the moment you take it off the lot, that car is going to depreciate significantly and you're automatically going to lose money on it. Whereas if you bought that exact same car but just a couple of years old with a couple of thousand miles on it, you could get a deep discount on that vehicle and the experience of the vehicle is almost the exact same. Now, oftentimes, whenever people buy new cars, and they buy new cars often, their justification for it is often either one of two arguments. Number one is that the argument is made that they are planning on keeping the car forever, and thus the depreciation doesn't matter. And though I can respect that kind of style of buying, that's what I did with my 4Runner. I plan on keeping it forever. That is what I am going to be doing with my next car once my 4Runner is no longer a drivable vehicle. So I understand the desire to buy a car and then keep it forever. But the problem is that you don't have to buy a car new in order to keep it forever. You can buy a car a couple of years old with a couple thousand miles on it and you can save a couple $1,000s in the process. And you won't get that initial depreciation hit that you would get if you bought a car new. The other argument that I hear oftentimes with buying cars new and buying cars new often is the fact of maintenance, of saying, well, we want to buy a car new because there's no maintenance issues, and then we're going to trade it in a few years later to avoid any maintenance issues. And I think that this argument, again, is extremely flawed. The fact of the matter is cars have maintenance problems. I mean, cars need to be maintained, and as long as you keep up with your maintenance, then you should be fine. And as long as you buy a car that has good maintenance records, then that's even better. I think that if maintenance is that big of a concern for you, you probably shouldn't be going for a high maintenance vehicle. Something like a BMW or a Mercedes or a Porsche are going to be bad choices for you. Whereas if maintenance is your number one concern, go with a 4Runner. I mean, I have a 1997 4Runner with 311,000 miles on it, and it is still driving fine today. I think that overall, though, using maintenance as an excuse to buy a new car and to buy a new car frequently is a poor reason to do that. And I think that overall, no matter what way you cut it, buying a new car is oftentimes financially irresponsible. And I get it, everybody has their choice, and if you have the money to buy a new car, then that's fine. But for somebody who's wanting to save money, or for people who are wanting to get out of debt, buying a new car is an absolutely horrible idea. It's something that I will most likely never do. It's something that I've never done, and I absolutely instead advocate on people finding a relatively comparable vehicle, but one that's used. Now, the final point that I want to talk about is the fifth thing that I don't buy, and that is impulse purchases. Now, I am a recovering impulse buyer. Whenever I was a teenager, I had a really good job in high school, and as a result, I always had extra money to blow on whatever I wanted. And as a result, I bought some pretty stupid things in my late teenage years to early 20s, from a drum, even though I don't know how to play the drums, to a unicycle, to so much more. As I've gotten older, I have gotten significantly better at not buying impulse purchases, and a big reason for that, I think, is the 3-day rule. Now, as much as I would like to take credit for the 3-day rule, I did not invent it. I heard it actually from the YouTuber Matt D'Avella, and he had mentioned it in one of his YouTube videos that he published quite a while ago. What the 3-day rule is it's saying that anything you want to purchase that isn't like a necessary business expense or home expense, anything you want to buy that could be considered an impulse purchase, don't buy it right then. Instead, sit on it, wait 3 days, and then see if you want it. This is something that I do with almost any purchase that I make that isn't considered a necessary purchase. For example, if my dogs need dog food, I'm not going to wait 3 days and see if I want to purchase it then. But if I want to buy a jacket, if I want to buy a new camera, if I want to buy something for my bike, whatever the case is, I will not purchase it whenever I find the item. I will wait 3 days, and then if I still want the item after 3 days, I'll purchase it free and clear. The thing I love about this 3-day rule is that I would say probably 95% of the time I end up not wanting the item and I never end up purchasing it. And the items that I do end up buying, I actually end up enjoying and I feel good about the purchase. This is a great way to stop yourself from impulse buying, but also feeling like you're not forcing yourself to not buy the things that you want. It's also a great way to ensure that every purchase is one that's well thought out and that you aren't going to have buyer's regret or buyer's remorse later on. There are very few impulse purchases I've made in my life that I actually didn't regret. I feel like I can't even think of anything that I've bought impulsively that I still use to this day and that I don't regret later on. So the 3-day rule is a great way to avoid that turmoil altogether, and it's an excellent way to save some extra money. But you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I think for me, saving is really just a matter of getting out of those bad habits and getting out of the repetition of wasting money in bad places, whether it be fast food, delivery, drinks, whatever the case is. But I would love to hear your thoughts, and if you guys have any other kind of saving hacks that you guys do in your personal life, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.